Hello, this is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit about the State of the Union. We're going to be talking about AOC went on a rant. You know, they have these, committees looking at different stuff, and they're talking about Twitter and the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story. And she, I don't know, went into some crazy pants kind of rant. So we're going to talk about that. And also, I want to talk about Madonna's face. And I wasn't going to talk about it because, I don't want to really get into how people do and don't look, but she blamed people's portrayal of it on sexism and agism, and it's now worth talking about, at least from my perspective. So we'll jump into that. But before we do, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, different stuff that I have for the March for Life. I do have that page up. I'm still adding some stuff, but I posted some videos today, and I want to talk about some reactions I got from it. But go ahead and check out stuff that I have. I do have my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. Go ahead and make sure that you guys pre-order it. And if you go to the website, it's first thing will pop up on a splash page. But you can pre-order on Kindle, but you can also go ahead and sign up for updates so you can know when you can pre-order it and get the paperback as well. Looking forward to that coming out and sharing all the work that I put into it. You can check out different merch on the website, like the Black Tea mug, the Frederick Douglass, the Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document is available. Also got Pro-Choice Men Are Sus, which I love that one, short for suspect. So go ahead and check out different stuff that we have on the site that you guys can pick up to help support. Otherwise, you can go to blacktnews.com/donate and leave a donation if you enjoy what I do here, want to help cover overhead, see it grow, etc. If you go to the website, hit the donation page, you can leave a gift that's small. You can leave $10. You can leave larger gifts like $50, $100, whatever you'd like to do. Very much appreciate it. It costs a stream, run my website, all sorts of things. When I do a fancier video and there's all these effects and graphics or templates or whatever I got to use, none of that stuff is, out of thin air. Even Adobe is very expensive. So if you would like to support, God bless you. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, for tagging different people, for subscribing, for liking. All that stuff really does help. And if you watch, especially people watching on YouTube right now, I have no idea if YouTube will allow me to be monetized. No idea. But a lot of people start subscribing from a lot of my short videos, and so I have well over the threshold for monetization on that front, but I need some more watch hours. So watch content. Get someone else to watch content. So anyway, I do thank you guys for joining on there. But yeah, I have no idea if I submit, if YouTube will let me do it or not. But just a little transparency, I'm not monetized by YouTube or Facebook besides the stars. I don't know why they took away the other kind of monetization. So the only way to monetize on Facebook is if you're watching and you send stars. And on TikTok, I'm not monetized on there at all, which how they stranglehold my main account wouldn't matter anyway. So yeah, just really by the goodness of your hearts. So if you want to support, go to the website. And but we'll see what YouTube eventually decides to do. So in the meantime, I would like to reach the particular goals, but I'm very grateful that I now have over 20,000 followers on YouTube. I was really struggling to get 1,000, and I'm over 20. So that's great news, and I'm grateful. Speaking of YouTube, I did post some pro-life videos from the March for Life and at the Students for Life Summit that were like short, minute videos. Like some of them I had already posted, but I clipped them and posted them into the shorts, and I put on YouTube, Facebook, and some of them on Instagram and on TikTok. And one of them was within a man who is is a Korean man. He's an influencer, and people did not like the fact that a man was speaking about standing up for women and children. So responses for that was pretty interesting. And a young girl was really upset by this video of these women who went to the first March for Life and have been, participating in the movement for 50 years. And they call them fossils, and was upset that they're like they're past reproductive age. They shouldn't be making decisions for other women, which I find ironic, because they think women, of their age, child producing age or whatever, or near, well, yeah, I guess it would be child producing age, near voting age, or around voting age, or whatever, should be able to um have abortions and then decide the futures of other women, because they're not just aborting men, they're also aborting women. It's bad either way, but they want to make decisions that affect their, not only their futures, but their whole entire lives. So the irony was not lying, but the disrespect that people have for like young older folks is amazing. And then it really boils down to a um I guess a mind your business sort of attitude. And well, you wouldn't treat another sort of human rights violation like that, you know. I did do a TikTok. I'll have to post it elsewhere talking about this, but you wouldn't say to Frederick Douglass, "Hey, man, you're free. Like, leave the rest of everybody else to be able to own their slaves." No, which very boss courageous move from him to be free and to escape elsewhere and still be like, you know what? No, I have to keep up the fight because there's other people who need to be liberated. So, expecting people to just mind their business when they see like terrible injustices going on is just really awful. Um, Again, people wouldn't. A lot of people do mind their business about many of things that they probably should not, but it's totally not compelling to tell someone who cares about the sanctity of life that, hey, you have no business being involved in any of this. So um I don't know. It's just weird. Someone misunderstood for and thought I was the man who was in my video, the Korean man. And so I had responded to one of their comments, and they're like, "Easy for you to say. You'll never know what it's like to carry a baby, and you in a control." And I just didn't respond to everything. I mean, I took time to respond thoughtfully to other things that they had said, but after they went in their rant, I just responded with, "I am a woman." So I'm gonna have me on to show him some of those comments and respond to some of them, because it is amazing so much animosity that people will have for pro-life men when it is their progeny, their heirs, their children that are being killed. I think is really suspect for men. I think we should treat men who are pro-choice with as much disgust that we have with men who abandon their kids or don't want to pay child support. Like we put a huge stigma on men who are, the guy who says he's going to go get milk and never comes home, to men like that. We find that interesting. So why do we as a society, when it's a man who's like, "Oh yeah, go ahead, kill that baby," like why don't we bring even a similar sort of energy? I think we should um and nowadays to be pro-choice, like Kamala Harris and AOC something to the degree of you think about your sons, you don't want them to have to be burdened or be stuck with a baby. So we live in a really crazy society, and it's really gross considering that many women who report to regret their abortions or have any kind of like um mental health issues or anxiety about after having an abortion report that they felt, well, they had an abortion because to please someone else, and then many of them feel pressured, and many women feel like if they had had support that they wouldn't have one. So to try to recruit men to be the people who push you into not having it, into having an abortion is really grotesque. So I very much appreciate men who are willing to be like, no, I'm standing up for women and children. No, you can't kill my kid, and no, I'm not going to shut up about it. So I very much appreciate that. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the stories of the day. I don't have a meme because Biden is the meme, but here's something why I don't understand why they clap.
Make no mistake, if you try anything to raise the cost of producing jobs, I will veto it.
Bro, why'd they clap? Bro, why'd they clap? Like, when people, in my opinion, well, not my opinion, this is what I do. When I see something that is really crazy, or someone fails and they're trying, I don't know, I don't clap and support folks when they're like struggling like that. To reward what? Like he said something that was inaudible, that was you know. So there was quite a few moments like that in the speech, but let's just get to something that a moment where everyone was laughing at Biden. There's been a lot of talk about gas prices of oil and etc. And Biden he's blamed Putin, he's blamed greedy companies for making all this money and still having prices be high, when these companies have literally said, Biden, these are the things that you need to do for people to have cheaper gas, and he just ignores it and then continues to blame them. And so he said something about oil the other night, and the Republicans just like went into a fit of laughter.
Production. And when I talk to a couple of them, they say, well, we're afraid you're going to shut down all the oil wells, all the oil refineries anyway, so why should we invest in them? I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade, and that's going to exceed and beyond that. We're going to need it. Production. If they had, in fact, invested in the production to keep gas prices down, instead, they used the record profits to buy back their own stock, rewarding the CEOs and shareholders. Corporations ought to do the right thing.
Yeah, so that's really crazy. So they're laughing, I don't know, for multiple reasons, I assume. One of them being, no, we're not just going to be done with gas or oil in 10 years. People use oil for so much. We don't just use it for our cars. Like nylon stockings, like pantyhose is used with like, oil and stuff. There's so much that it's a part of our lives. It's not something that we can just easily just throw to the wayside. So Biden is living in a la la land. And he knows it, and I think people think he's so incredibly insincere, and he said something that we've acknowledged and we've talked about, like, hey, why should we invest into ramping up production and building more refineries and doing all this stuff, which is not something you just, I don't know, snap your fingers and you build something and it's profitable. It takes time to do all these things. And they said, why should we do these things when you're clearly trying to shut us down? When you're really, really trying to get rid of us, I mean, Biden has said multiple times on the campaign trail that he wanted to end fossil fuels. He was asked point blank during a debate, like, would you be willing to 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 make the economy suffer for achieving this green ideal? And he said yes. The answer is yes. He walked up to one woman and shook her hand and said, "I promised you we're going to end fossil fuels." And people didn't believe him, I guess. And how can you believe something so ridiculous? Because again, so much of our world is wrapped up in oil, not just what we put in our cars, but it's just so much a part of our lives. So so maybe people didn't believe him, but that's a heck of a threat. That's a heck of a threat. And you should have just kind of took him at his word with it. So especially since he's willing to repeat it so many times. It's amazing this man is the president right now. It's really amazing. So he acknowledges that they're like, you have a goal, like an agenda of shutting us down. So why should we do these things? And Biden's answer is, well, we're going to need you for at least 10 years. What kind of like long-term plan investments is that you're going to be around for at least 10 years? 10 years. I mean, if you're young, really young, 10 years can seem like a lifetime. Maybe 10 years is your lifetime, but the older you get, the more those decades just start slipping by. So when you make long-term investment, there are people who make big, huge corporations that are like, okay, we're gonna have a plan and maybe we'll be profitable by like 2026 or something, um that's just not. If you say, well, we'll still need you for at least 10 years, that is not any sort of guarantee. So I think that's why everyone was pretty much laughing on top of him being someone who's really hindered trust in that sort of industry. He breeds a lot of worry for people making decisions. He just breeds worry. And rightfully, these people are worried. But saying you will at least be around for 10 years, if you can only foresee 10 years, I think that still speaks to a lot of I don't know, they just don't know their future. So why would they invest in that sort of way? So I wouldn't make long-term investments in the Biden's economy. You can just ignore him and just continue to build knowing that he'll be replaced. But if he's been around for a very long time and he knows how things should be. He should be operating from a smarter perspective than where he's at. But he's such a person who surrendered himself to the woke mob, which Sarah Huckabee Sanders did the response. I don't have a clip pulled up for you guys. But she said, I'm the first person to lead my state, and he's the first president to surrender the country to the woke mob. And I was like, that's she had some great lines in there. So and I wonder why they picked Sarah. Not that I'm saying they shouldn't have picked Sarah, but we can talk about that later. That was interesting that they picked Sarah, because I was wondering who they would pick. And it's usually kind of like a big statement when they decide who they're trying to uphold there. So I did think it was interesting that was Sarah. Now, Biden has surrendered himself to the woke mob, and anyone else who comes next, who knows if they're going to pick someone who is more moderate than Biden. Biden tried to claim he was a moderate, and he's not a moderate at all, in the least. So, if another Democrat comes along who has a more radical view on climate change and green energy, how do you know that they're not going to really try to force these companies to be bankrupt or to not be able to do anything in the next 10 years? And I don't think you can really phase these global entities out in like 10 years. They'll just try to really go somewhere else, and we'll be really dependent on other folks for oil. We'll just put ourselves in a really bad spot. We're not going to be ready to get off stuff in 10 years or so. But yeah, what a ridiculous thing to say. If I don't know what my face was at one point, and I just kind of paused for a while, I'm sitting on a stool and my legs were crossed and I uncrossed them, and I don't know, however my bone was twisted, and my feet were like asleep. It just kind of felt like my leg was about to pop out my socket, while at the same time my toes are tingling and I didn't know what I was about to do. So I just want to be transparent because I don't know if I made a face or not, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Anyway, let's watch another clip here with Biden. um the Biden is a bad dad. He's just a bad. I don't think he's a good person at all. Maybe his sons wouldn't say so, uh, or I'm sorry, wouldn't have said so. Maybe Hunter wouldn't say that. The a tree by its fruits, I suppose. And he's grown. Hunter's grown. He makes his own decisions, but he's clearly been sheltered from by his dad. But why am I saying this now about him not being a good dad? Like, I want to show you this clip. So this is a conversation that's pretty much, or narrative that's been going on for a while. During the Biden Trump debate, the moderator suggested this, so I'll go ahead and play it and we'll go from there.
Most of us in here have never had to have the talk that brown and black parents have had to have with their children. Bo, Hunter, Ashley, my children, I never had to have the talk with them. I never had to tell them, if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away. Don't reach for your license. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Imagine having to worry like that every single time your kid got in a car.
So I don't think that's, if the implication there is if that's white privilege. Maybe that's just moronic dad privilege. Why wouldn't you have those conversations with your kid if, in case you get pulled over? Being a cop is a hard job. You know, there are degrees of how difficult it can be, but you never know when you're just going to be kind of patrolling around I mean, you might get a cushy sort of patrol around the suburb, and the most you have to do is you get called in to check on, somebody who pulled up on the driveway too many times because they were learning how to drive. you know we used to live in a subdivision out in Clarkston, and so the guy from my church was teaching me how to drive, and so we were pulling out of like people's parking lot sometimes, and just to turn around, and cops came by. No, that was he did teach me how to drive, but he also taught my sister, so that was probably more like when she was learning how to drive. They did stop. There's a funny story to be had there, but I don't know if I'll tell that story, at least not today. But I don't. The people were so paranoid just all the time. One day, my dad, and granted, maybe they just didn't recognize our cars or whatever. But one day, my dad parked outside of our house, and we were in a van. Oh, we had a big white van to tow everybody around. There's 7 of us. And so the police pulled up. My dad's like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "This is my house." and the police apologized. They're like, he's like, "These people are so paranoid." They're so paranoid. So yeah, some cops get jobs like that. Some cops are situated in more war zone type mentality places where life is more dangerous, or they have to do more dangerous things. But stopping someone on the road for some kind of traffic check, cops will tell you that's very dangerous. You don't know when you're gonna have just a amicable sort of like, here's your license, blah blah blah, your tail lights out, etc. And how quickly that can turn into someone shoots you dead. So they're on guard when something like that happens anyway. So if you don't have a parent saying, "Hey, when the cop pulls you over, and just letting them know, your child know, preparing them," you're doing them a disservice. I don't care if you're black or you're white. You You should be telling them something. Now, if I can believe that Biden hasn't had that talk. I can totally believe that. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that why would he ever imagine that his children would be in a situation like that? Like when they're in trouble, they probably call someone else to get them out of trouble, you know? Hunter's been in a lot of trouble. Been in a lot of trouble. I think there's a lot of talks that Joe didn't have with Hunter, like, don't bang your brother's widow, don't sniff Parmesan cheese, don't have a sex with whoever while a Squirtle is watching and traumatize the poor little animal. Don't leave laptops everywhere. There's lots of things he probably didn't tell Hunter and his kids, and they'd be better off about it. There's some weird things in someone's diary. I won't get into more than that, but today I won't anyway. I've talked about it, but yeah, I can believe that Biden has dropped the ball, but as far as like not telling his kids how to interact with police when something happens, the talk that they probably got was, call me because I'll get you out of trouble. Those are probably the talks that he's had, not, hey, be careful with don't, getting your don't move and get your license too fast. Have your hands on 10 and 2. Those probably aren't the conversations that they probably had. And when you are very much up in privilege and station, you just live in a different world. But yeah, I totally know that there's white people, black people, Hispanic people tell their kids, when you get pulled over by the cop, be respectful. If you have issues, get their badge number, and try to do something later. Know your rights. Know your rights. The Republican Party in Michigan, they used to have different sorts of trainings with folks to just, let them know what to do in those sort of encounters. But Biden brought this up. And as I said, it was also brought up in the debate with Trump and Biden, the talk that people are needing to have with their kids. I think it is good that you have those conversations with your kids about what to do in those situations with a police officer. They frame it as though the police officer is just ready to execute people of a particular skin color, when the truth is they're very dangerous stops. The police don't know what can happen, and they can be antsy. Now, I don't think people should be antsy, because it's obviously putting your life is jeopardized if someone who has the authority holding the gun is antsy, but they need to be on alert for their safety, not scared, I guess, but cautious and in control. That's what they should be. But you don't know if you're getting someone who's spooked. You don't know if you're getting a rookie. You don't know if someone just coming back on the job because they got into an incident and they're rattled. You just don't know. And they have all the power in that situation. So the implication is that it's a racial thing. It's not. It's not. If you are a parent, like, you should have that kind of conversation with your kid. You should, you know. He's just the worst for lots of different reasons. But yeah, they touted, the him passing, different bills, which, he's like, oh, we invested in climate change, the infrastructure act, and it's like, not the infrastructure, reduce inflation act, and tried to, make it seem like it was everyone else's fault that we got high inflation. And it's like, bro, you spent a lot of money, and inflation started to be a problem prior to the war, but of course they blame the war, they blame the pandemic. And I'm like, we made decisions about how we acted in the pandemic, how we slowed down the economy, how we ruined jobs, how us slowing down the economy, disrupted supply chains. These are all decisions that people in authority decided to make. He was like, oh, we put big pharma in check, when it's like, bro, you poured so much money into big pharma, it was ridiculous. So there's a lot of untruths and lies. And gosh, I don't think I downloaded the clip where the Republicans were all just yelling at Biden because he accused them of trying to get rid of Medicaid and Social Security, and they just erupted. They erupted. So go ahead and check that out. And Vanity Fair did a tweet, and they're like, for much of President Biden's State of the Union address, Republicans responded civilly until they didn't. And it contrasts with what they said with, when Pelosi ripped up Trump's speech. Pelosi told colleagues Wednesday that ripping up Trump's speech felt fantastic. So, which she clearly like made like indentations like in the speech. So she that was performative. It wasn't like in the moment, like just let me rip this up. It was planned to be theatrical to try to, sour Trump's State of the Unions, which he had, great. He was a great showman. If anything, if you don't like him, he's a great showman. So the fact checkers are really being ridiculous. Let me see if I can find the Glenn. I put this on Facebook with the Washington Post fact checker. It was they were like, oh, Biden's a good person, I'm glad he's president. And then Stephen Miller was just like, he won't even acknowledge one of his grandkids. Like, he just pretends they don't exist. Like they literally put stockings up in the White House and it's missing for this bastard child. And and it is really so cruel because everyone is aware that they exist. It's not like we don't know. So we know that they're purposely leaving them out and just choosing not to acknowledge them. It's pretty gross. Pretty gross. I mean, Biden's not good for a lot of different reasons, but I mean that's pretty trashy. Pretty not good. So anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. AOC decided to I don't know, try to gaslight everybody about the Hunter Biden laptop story. So we'll just watch it together, her rant about it, and go from there.
Article now, a Washington Post article now warning about Hunter Biden laptop disinformation, the guy who leaked it. Here's the deal. Before I even get into my questions, I think that the story here with the Washington Post reporting is that what they're saying right here, when the New York Post first reported in October 2020 that it had obtained contents of a laptop computer allegedly owned by Joe Biden's son Hunter, there was an immediate roadblock faced by other news outlets that hoped to corroborate reporting, as many did. The newspaper wasn't sharing what it obtained.
So, one, why would that matter to why they blocked them? Because at that point, because social media platforms, you're able to post things on the site, and they have certain things that they don't allow. I would say porn, but Twitter allowed more than it should have. Certainly. So not that I don't know where people go to the dark corners to find this stuff, but there's bad things on Twitter in different places that Elon is like, we gotta work to remove this in a way that the other folks didn't work to remove it. But there's certain things you can't post on platforms. But what if they're gonna not allow like the oldest paper in the country to not share a news story, then they're acting more like, they're making an editorial decision rather than just having like these blanket guidelines and allowing people to post on social media. So even if they didn't share, because they don't have evidence that it's not true, and and again, at this point in time, there was stuff coming out and people like confirming bits and pieces here and there. So I'm like, this seems like it's really true. And the Biden administration would play games about certain stuff. They're like, oh, well, this laptop, it says that Biden met such and such at the White House. And they'd be like, it wasn't on his schedule. And I'm like, why would you put it on the schedule? So they play games like that. They wouldn't outright deny that it was Hunter's laptop, which, by the way, I mean, FBI had it. So folks had to know. All the people claim it was misinformation, disinformation. These folks were lying to you and continued to lie. Knowing some of the stuff was absolutely provable. They just play a lot of games. But even if, and I can understand them not wanting to have it up out there if it wasn't true, but for them to just karate chop block it, and she's saying, well, they wouldn't share the information. It's still not the duty of Twitter to be like, they're not cooperating with other news sources. So, and we really need the Washington Post or someone to fact check this before we just let this go rampant, right? That wasn't like Twitter's duty to do that. Like, people can agree or disagree, but that's not their thing. That's not their duty. I mean, they allow other misinformation and blatant lies to spread like wildfire on that platform all the time. Okay. So that's one. Two, they totally did share information. So Jack Posobiec, I think that's how you say the name. I've always said it wrong. I heard someone say it and I was like, oh. He had the laptop, or at least he kept claiming he had the laptop. Apparently he had the laptop. And he tweeted at Jake Tapper all the time, I have the laptop. Would you a copy of the drive? Would you like a copy of the drive? And I think he put it out there to other people, but for whatever reason, he was really, really, really stuck on Jake Tapper and tweeted at him several times. Someone even mentioned today with this story and tweeted at Jack, and they're like, didn't you tell Jake Tapper that he could have access to the drive? And so he retweeted them, because we all remember that there was a call like, if you want to prove this story, if you want to see the content of the laptop, then it is available to you. So going off and claiming that the Post or other people couldn't get access to the drive to verify, they didn't want to verify. They didn't want it to be true. This was a huge October surprise. They did not want this stuff in here to be true. And then they'll pretend like now, like, oh, it's not a big deal. If it wasn't a big deal, they wouldn't have suppressed information. Like, just imagine that this wasn't Hunter Biden. Imagine that this was Donald Trump Jr. Like, it would, they wouldn't have cared about the validity of the statements. How much crap did they allow about the Russia collusion stuff to go out there? I remember it trending on Twitter, golden showers. Do you guys remember what golden showers was? The accusation that Trump was peeing on Russian prostitutes or allowing them to pee on or whatever. So, and I think Trump commented and was like, I'm a germaphobe. Like, it's gross. Like, what? Just really dumb stuff that they allowed to become, huge information stories for years. People getting Pulitzer Prizes off of lies and not needing to give them back. So we live in a crazy world, and they know that there's a double standard. So she's not being honest here about the events that happened at all, in the slightest.
New York Post had this alleged information and was trying.
Why still call it alleged? Why still call it alleged? Why still call it alleged? It's his laptop. He signed for it. He left it there. And again, I've said this many times. I understand people who thought it was a sketchy story. I thought it was a little weird. I'm like, Rudy Giuliani just happened to get this laptop, and I'm like, this story sounds like I didn't like 100% doubt it or anything like that, but I'm acknowledging that it just sounds so. If someone wrote like a, I don't know, ex machina sort of story, like if someone was writing a story and they needed the character to have a break, to get a break, this is a thing that would be the break, like in the story. That sounds stranger than fiction. Like it doesn't sound, it sounds contrived. Like if you're writing a story, you put something in there and it's like, oh, there's a lap. It sounds so crazy that it sounds contrived. So I understand people being skeptical of the story. I understand that. I get that. But you have to remember, Hunter Biden is a crackhead. And then it all starts making more sense. Like, seriously. But he did leave the laptop, and people were confirming stuff on it, like in real time. Like there was an email with Frank Lutz or something people were questioning, and he started replying and talking about it or saying it's not a big deal, whatever. I'm just like, okay, they're confirming things that are from the laptop. I'm like, we're just gonna ignore it? Like, are we just like, what's wrong with the world? It just felt like so crazy. So why? I don't know why call it alleged now. It's true. It's actually his laptop.
Trying to publish it without any corroboration, without any backup information. They were trying to publish it to Twitter. Twitter did not let them, and now they were upset. I believe that political operatives who sought to inject explosive disinformation with the Washington Post couldn't get away with it. And now they're livid. And they
they're upset that they are a newspaper that reported a true thing, and Twitter, who was not alone as far as their actions, had frequent communication and stuff with the White House or whoever, the government shut down the story. They put out a word to Zuckerberg, was like, hey, there's going to be some misinformation or disinformation or whatever. They suppressed the story. They made this was a big deal, and to just be like they're upset about it. Why aren't you upset about it as someone who's elected, who understands that there were lines that were crossed? I think deep in her heart, if what roles were reversed and they were suppressing something that would really hurt Trump or something, she'd be singing a different tune. So deep within her heart, if she could just throw her bias aside, I think she would know that there's something wrong with this level of corruption, whether putting pressure on these social media companies and making them censor because the government can't quite come out and do that. So having committees like this to try to hold someone accountable, to find out more information, I think that's reasonable. But going on here and grandstanding like a fool and pretending like they don't have something to be upset about, like we all don't have something to be upset about. They wanted to hide this information from the public because they believed that it would change the outcome of the election. People like Sam Harris and other folks believe it's a good thing that they did this because they believe it would have been worthy to do to hinder or change the results of the election. There's a debate on how much it did or didn't change the results of the election, but that was the intent, to protect the Bidens. So Biden would be sitting in that White House. So there's plenty of people who are glad with that result, I suppose, and don't care ultimately about what they did to accomplish that. But the fact that they know what they did and they're still sitting there justifying and then calling it alleged information and misinformation, knowing that they're lying, it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting.
They want the ability to do that again. They want the ability to inject this again. So they've dragged a social media platform here in Congress. They're weaponizing the use of this committee so that they can do it again.
So they can do what again? Post real news? Post real. We are not talking about something that was a lie. We're not talking about something that was misinformation, like the Russia collusion stuff that was all over the place. There were so many lies that spread. I already mentioned golden showers. What about the bounty hunter story, claiming that about that we had like Russian agents or something with the Taliban and hitting up soldiers, and they were saying that Trump knew it or was aware of it, and they were going in on Trump and really trying to attack Trump's one of his strengths, which is his appearance for love of the military and vice versa. And it wasn't I mean, Biden had to eventually, when he was president, Psaki was asked about like, oh, turns out, their administration was being honest about those events. Are you going to apologize? And she's like, well, no. It's kind of like, whatever. Like we knew it, we didn't know what we knew at the time, and it's whatever. We don't care. Well, they don't care because they got what they wanted out of it. But as someone who wanted to be president, Biden wanted to be president, and someone who's been vice president, and someone who's been in the Senate for a very long time, trying to undermine the authority and the trust that people have in the commander in chief. Like, there's some things that should be higher and greater in politics. I think so. I think so. But win at any cost for some of these folks. Win at any cost. But they let the misinformation, get around. Did they check their sources before they let stuff like that spread? No. And I'm not saying that they should. There should, it is alarming when someone can post a lie and then it's retweeted several, hundreds of thousands of times, and then someone might be like, put under it like, oh, well, I was wrong about this. I'm just keeping the one up, the post up, but here's like the retraction. And the truth doesn't get those, lightning bolt retweets. So people believe the lie. Here's another example. Trump was at a rally, and he was talking about Robert E. Lee, and he was building up the story talking about Robert E. Lee so he could talk about the greatness of Grant eventually taking him down. So he's telling a story about the Civil War, and someone just retweets a section of it, and I think it was a major media, and they're like, oh, Trump praises Robert E. Lee, and that just retweets like crazy. And I'm like, that's not what is happening. That's not what was happening at all, but just circulated so quick. So there's people who are like, oh, this guy's disgusting. He's praising Robert E. Lee, who was, a talented military guy. There's things that are just objectively true. But the reason why he uplifted him in the story was to talk about how great of the accomplishment it was that we took him down and that Grant took him down, which I think that Trump really liked Grant because he saw him as a very flawed person who was needed in a time, because we were having trouble. They were having trouble in the North. They were, like it was having a very rough time finding some kind of general to really combat Lee. So, and Grant was alcoholic. So he had this huge flaw, but he was needed to rise to the occasion for the sake of the nation. So, Trump is not an alcoholic. He doesn't actually drink, but I believe that he related to Grant because he acknowledges, though he does have a big ego, he does acknowledge that he's a very flawed individual himself, but believes that, I would say he believes he was called for a time such as this. So, but they didn't care about what the context. It was like, gotta keep this narrative about Trump being racist. So we gotta just fly this out here. So it's terrible that happens, but should Twitter come in and just be like, oh, we have not verified enough of this stuff and just totally shut down news stories? I don't think so. They could add like context things, which, folks are doing, and you got fact checkers that should be doing their job, but she's just pretending that these folks lied in real time, and that's not what happened. They got censored for telling the truth because the truth was inconvenient.
A whole hearing about a 24-hour hiccup in a right-wing political operation. That is why we are here right now. And it's just an abuse of public resources, an abuse of public time. We could be talking about healthcare. We could be talking about bringing down the cost of prescription drugs. We could be talking about abortion rights, but instead we're talking about Hunter Biden's half-fake laptop story. I mean, this is an embarrassment, but I'll go into it. Ms. Navaroli, let's talk about something real.
Let's talk about something real. That's the end of that particular clip. Yeah, they could be talking about other things and doing other things, and it was a waste of resources and time when she did photo ops at when she was like crying, looking into the camera, when she was like dressed in the white outfit. She does a lot of things that are just for clicks and praise or whatever. I'm not saying that there's not things that mean a lot to her that she actually wants to get done. She's very performative, but she's not the worst politician in the world, actually. But she's just a liar. She's just a liar. I think how these big social media companies worked and had a cozy relationship with the government and worked to censor information, especially stuff on COVID. I think that's worth having a hearing. I think that's worth having a hearing over, because if we don't have some kind of at least a hearing, like I want something to come out of it. That's what you would hope, some kind of accountability. But if they can just continue to move down this path of kicking off people, pressuring these companies to kick off people off of platforms for sharing real information, that's very inconvenient for them, where the heck are we going to be in 10 years? Where are we going to be? So I think that she should care. I think that it's well worth the time. I don't know what will come out of it. Republicans have a very small majority in the House, and they don't have majority in the Senate, obviously. So I don't know, other than them having a report. I don't know what else is going to happen. But I hope, there is some kind of accountability from the government. And if there's not, at least people will hold the government accountable for what we have learned and make better decisions about who we vote for and who these people are going to appoint to positions of power to stop this crazy stuff from happening. And maybe Democrats like her don't care because the shoe is rarely on the other foot. But people think that the only crime Obama committed or scandal he had was wearing a tan suit. I remember when people were very upset about the IRS scandal and the targeting of different conservative groups. They'd look for words like patriot and other stuff like that for discrimination. So and a lot of the stuff happens one way, and I don't want to wake up in a world where everybody just can't have a voice. And you're living in V for Vendetta. So many woke people love that film because for various reasons, but they think it's so left, I guess, because there was a big scene with a homosexual telling their story. But I'm like, yeah, I know y'all lefties really censor people, right? So I don't want to live in some kind of Orwellian future nightmare. So yeah, it's well worth our time, and it's disgraceful that she doesn't think so. Last thing I want to mention today before I let you guys go is that there was a lot of talk for a lot of different things about the Grammys. Of course, you had the Sam Smith devil sort of tribute performance thing going on. You had Jill Biden there, which I ran. That was what I commented the most about the other day. I'm like, I really find it weird that they would allow them to kind of come to head knowing this performance was going to take place. I don't think it was appropriate for the First Lady of the United States. But hey, maybe that's just that kind of administration. But people were also talking about Madonna. And I wasn't going to talk about this. Many people were talking about her face. I don't want to comment. Like, I don't want to comment on, it feels too mean to like really have, deep conversations about people's faces and other kind of stuff. But she decided to blame agism and sexism, and then I decided to get involved because she said Madonna fires back at comments over Grammy appearance and blames a long lens camera for distorting her changing face. Once again, I am caught in the glare of ageism and misogyny. let me just give you some time to look at that some more. Which, by the way, there people have seen videos of Madonna. Maybe there's some angles that are less flattering. I don't, not every angle is great on me or something. So I understand angles, and you can get captured in a way. I don't love every picture of the internet that's out of me out there, but to blame ageism and sexism when you didn't choose to age gracefully. You didn't choose to age gracefully. You did stuff to your face. I don't know what all she did to her face, but she did stuff to it. This is not the work of a bee. And puffiness from some kind of allergic reaction. She has done things to her face, and they are not all panning out for her. I would encourage women, it's nothing new, people in Hollywood, to go out and do stuff to their face. And sometimes, people do work, and they the stuff turns out, people perceive it to be great, and other times people look like monsters and they're just totally botched. So but there's women who get way more into plastic surgery and Botox and all that kind of stuff as they get older. And I'm just like, ma'am, like, women out there, just learn to age gracefully. Age is going to happen to us all. Like, you can't blame ageism when you're the one who has a problem with your age, with just aging gracefully. So like, we didn't make the puffy face. We didn't do that. And now you're upset because people are commenting saying you are not recognizable from what we remember. Like you're transforming. And that's got to be very awkward to happen in front of cameras and stuff. But I blaming misogyny and I can't just let that stand. I'm trying to find her quote. Once again, I'm caught in the glare of ageism and misogyny that permeates the world we live in. Madonna complained that she lived in a world that refuses to celebrate women past the age of 45 and feels the need to punish her if she continues to be strong-willed, hardworking, and adventurous. She continued, declaring that she wasn't about to start apologizing for any creative choices I have made, nor the way that I look or dress, and I'm not going to start. You could have just not commented at all, but you blamed ageism and sexism. The Like a Prayer singer said that while she felt she has been degraded since her earliest days of fame, I understand that this is all a test, and I am happy to do the trailblazing so that all the women behind me can have an easier time in the years to come. Yeah, don't be like Madonna, like, age gracefully. Like, she's 64. My mom is older than her and hasn't had any work. Like, she looks good for her age. And, I guess there's always the saying, black don't crack, but, there's other people in that age bracket who look natural, who are natural. So you can't complain about ageism and how people perceive you when you're the one who's decided not to take the natural road down. You just can't. I'm sorry. You're defending your manufactured face. Like, and you can comment that you felt like you had to do that because of ageism, but you're not fighting the good fight against people's perceptions of people aging gracefully by not just aging gracefully. And I mean, you want to treat your body better as far as age, don't stop drinking, don't do drugs, all that stuff ages you. It ages you real fast. It ages you real fast. Madonna has, done some crazy stuff in her life and her career, and a lot of things that are, kind of more conducive to what people perceive for younger people to do. She still does weird things, like says that she'll sleep with people for voting for Biden. I think that was her who said, and it's like, ugh, things that make you go blah. But yeah, you can't be an agent of standing up for women in their, aging gracefully and being older, and you're not being an example of that. So, I'm not saying these pictures were the most flattering of her. I've seen video. There's one video where she just kind of kisses a camera, and people are just like, "What is going on?" So, I wouldn't blame it on a distorted camera lens. Just ladies, just learn to age gracefully. My advice: you can take it, leave it. But don't drag everyone else, and then act like the system or whatever and the culture is a problem. Like, mm-mm. You paid whoever you paid to do that to you. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. Check out content that I did for March for Life and Students for Life Summit. I have that stuff posted on YouTube and on my website. I sprinkled videos all over the place, but you can just go to my website to look at some pictures and other stuff from my event. And I, have thanked my sponsors, but I just want to throw it out. I'm grateful to people who helped me get there. If you like what I do here and you would like to support, please go to blacktnews.com/donate and consider leaving a donation at the website, whether it's a small gift, $10, $20, more. It really does help. It costs to stream my website. I stream the stuff to run my website, to put together videos. It is me doing all this stuff, and I would like to grow and expand. And as I explained earlier, I'm not getting like any YouTube big bucks or anything like that. I don't even know if they'll let me do it. But we'll see. We'll see. But in the meantime, make sure that you are watching some more videos on YouTube so we can get some of those numbers up. But I'm thankful to everyone who's new and joined the channel and watching live, people who watch the playback. I know there's some like finicky internet things that were happening. It looks like, I don't know if I'm still going on Facebook or not, but thank you guys for watching, and God bless.